They're in the SEC now.
All right, good afternoon. I'm really excited to kick off our football season this Friday night against Temple. Watching games in college football last weekend, the passion, the enthusiasm, I don't think it's ever been stronger. The heartbreak that comes along with college football as well, but you gotta love all of it. I know our team's really excited to go out and compete, our staff is, and just have a great appreciation for our players and our staff that's prepared so incredibly hard for the last several months, putting together our roster recruiting, all the work that our players and coaches have put in regards to development and getting ready, prepared for the season. There's a lot that goes into it. So this is, again, a really anxious and exciting time for us. Put all the hard work. I know that players from the winter conditioning, the summer, or spring ball, the summer workouts and fall camp, putting that in the rearview mirror. Moving on to our first opponent this weekend in the Temple Owls. Really looking forward to watching what I hope to see an offense that runs the ball downhill, takes care of the football, creates explosive plays, really efficient in all the areas, especially the red zone, and puts pressure on the defense through both our scheme and pushing the ball down the field, as well as our tempo, and on defense, seeing a defense that stops the run, swarms the football, tackles well, gets off the field on third down, creates turnovers, plays and competes with great passion, and then the kicking game being much more efficient, controlling the hidden yardage and making our kicks, and not getting them blocked, and creating explosive plays as well in the kicking game. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Go middle, front row, Eric Bailey.
Brent, in your first stint here, when you came here in '99, at what point did you see the defense really to make that turn to what you wanted to be an elite defense? And are you starting to see the first steps of that in your going into your third year here now?
Yeah, again, I think it's been an incremental improvement. You want it to happen faster. You start completely over, and what our expectations were, what we're looking for in recruiting, the type of people that are passionate and committed. They love the game. They have a mental and physical toughness that you can recruit to. You certainly can nurture and get better. And so that's an ongoing process. We've made improvement. We were not very good in any area our first year. Made improvement in several areas through the course of the season last year, and we were terribly inconsistent and played really well in some spots, and but again, we're looking for a level of consistency from the group, and so we have we've got a group of guys, several guys that have played a lot of football for us, and so the expectation is we're going to take the next step, and so hopefully we'll do that. And but in the course of the season, the body of work that they put out there over the course of the season will ultimately be the real testimony where this defense is going. And I do like, if you looked at it from a graph standpoint, I think it's fair to say that trending in the right direction, but nowhere close to where we got to be yet. And I do believe that we have a staff and players that share in that sentiment, that there's no anointing. We're not trying to compare ourselves to anybody else but ourselves, and just get better. Work on daily improvement, not be satisfied, willing to show up every single day and put the work in, have a sense of urgency and again, desperation to get better. And so have respect for our processes, our routine, the structure that we provide our guys, the environment that we nurture to improving every single day. So really looking forward to it. This is a group of guys, they want it bad. They're again incredibly invested. Our leaders, great leadership. Again, Woody and Billy and Danny, Ethan, those guys in particular that have been here for four plus years. I think Woody's been here for 4, is this 5, or he transferred in, right? 6 years of playing college football, but he's been here 6 years. Okay, but it's a group of guys that, you know, they care deeply, and that's kind of where it all starts for me. So hoping that we'll see, you know, a group that, you know, takes the next step, and whatever, you know, that may be. We have 15 on defense, 15 seniors and juniors in our 2 deep, and we've got 2 freshmen in our 2 deep. So it's a veteran group, even if they haven't been the full-time starter, or maybe they transferred in here as well. So, does that answer your question?
Thanks.
Ryan Aber?
Yeah, Brent, just going off something you said right there at the end, 2 freshmen on your 2 deep, one of them, Jaden Jackson. I want to ask you about him. What sort of sealed that spot for him on the depth chart initially, and what kind of progress have you seen from him from the spring to now, from, you know, start of camp till now?
He's got a great deal of maturity. He can mature beyond his years. Very focused, driven, ambitious. Shows up, puts the work in every single day. He's a model of consistency with his habits, his mindset, great mental and physical toughness. He brought with him a skill set that was very refined, from a block recognition, his pad level, his footwork. So there's a lot to build from. And then again, a willingness to put the work in. He's got great humility, respect for what it takes to be successful. He shows up and makes everybody around him better. He's a really good teammate, incredibly coachable. It's you know, coach's dream, you know. But for where he is as a freshman, mentally, in his capacity to show up the same every day, have great self-awareness. When he had a bad play, a bad series, or just a bad day, he didn't let it allow it to affect him, you know, the following day, or the following play, the following series, so forth. So that's just that's abnormal, and he's got a great future in front of him if he keeps his head down and continues to be who he's been, which I don't see any reason to believe why he wouldn't.
Barry Trammell?
Yeah, Brent, in the vast catalog of 2 games into the season, it seems like teams are not playing as fast. Georgia Tech, Florida State, I think had 7 possessions each. SMU tried to play fast and didn't get them anywhere. You've been playing fast with Levy. Are you guys gonna play as fast? Is the whole trend of college football going slower? What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know what all our college football is or isn't doing. I do believe in putting pressure on the defense, but I also, first and foremost, believe in game control, and, you know, controlling the game, and that's everything, you know, that encompasses. So possessing the football, you know, being patient at times is a very good weapon to have, but, you know, you got to be effective and efficient in all the areas, you know, running and throwing in order to do that. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a little more of that. I think the headset communication, again, I think there's a misnomer, or maybe looked at the wrong way, that, oh, now that you can have headsets, then, you know, you don't have to signal anymore, but that's not true, you know, unless you huddle every snap. If you huddle every snap, you got everybody in there, all 11, the quarterback gets the play, then you can tell everybody to play, and then we can bust out of there, and then we can snap it fast. Now you can jump, trade, shift motion once you presented your first look, but, you know, otherwise, if you put the ball and just line up on the ball, rather, I do think that you're going to have to still signal to some people, you know, on the field. So, but there is efficiency with the huddle, and again, I think that you saw 2 teams that were both games, rather, maybe that looked like they were. I think SMU maybe they did a little bit more tempo than Nevada, but the Florida State, Georgia Tech, they both chose to huddle quite a bit, and then they had a few moments where they tempoed. But I don't know if that's a trend or not, but that's certainly in our arsenal.
Okay, George Doyle?
Yeah, Brent, could feel like special teams is a unit that you guys could see maybe the biggest improvement. I wanted to ask you about the kicking competition. How did you evaluate those two guys, and is it something where you've seen Zach kick the last 2 years? Do you take that into account, or is it clean slate and Tyler coming in as a new guy?
Well, of course, it's, you know, a clean slate. Everybody, again, this is a developmental game. I think sometimes in sports, I think we're too quick to judge someone, at any point in time in their career. I mean, I think it's fair too. You get a large sample size, and that we haven't done things like we need to do. That's fair as well. But I do think that this is a developmental game. You look at a guy like a Spencer Rattler who played here, that I don't think a lot of people thought should be the quarterback, and then he goes on to South Carolina and has an outstanding year, and I think he's doing pretty good, in the NFL. And my point with that is, look at all the growth and maturity and decision making and the precision that guys just get better, and the more you play, the better you get. That's typically what you see from freshman year to their senior year, that it's some level of trending in the upward trajectory if there's no external factors out there. So in regards to figuring it out, we have a spring and a summer sample size, and we know Zach's got a big leg, and he'll be our kickoff guy, and Kelp will start the season off as our field goal kicker. And what I saw, I've got a lot of confidence in both of those guys based on what I saw, from the spring and the summer.
Jenny?
Brent, at running back, you've got Gavin and Javante listed as fours at the top. Wondering if you can give us a little idea what that might look like with the two of them sort of sharing that top spot, and then more specifically to Gavin, just what, not just on the field, but what do you like about just what he's brought to the bunch over the last year or so? Yeah,
well, they're different style of backs, and obviously you get them both in the game early, and you see who's hot and who's feeling it, and what style benefits you. And but they're both guys that have shown us that they can, play at a high level when healthy. Gavin, again, he's the same thing. He's a leader on the team. A little quiet, but he leads by example. He's been, again, a model of consistency. Shows up with a thankful attitude every day, willingness to come to work. He invests in his teammates, and takes his opportunity seriously. So that's what I like about Gavin. Very talented. He's got breakaway speed. He's shown a propensity to break tackles, and understands our offense well.
And we'll go to Ryan Chapman.
Brent, when you get into game week with the offensive line, how do you balance continuing to let those guys battle it out versus needing to build that cohesion, especially if you have so many new pieces that haven't played games together?
Yeah, you got to play a lot of guys first of all, because we've got to continue to develop our team. That's our focus. But you've got to earn that trust and that opportunity through your body of work, through, again, spring, summer, fall camp, etc. And but we've got to develop every position group on the team, and so hopefully we'll be able to play more guys this year than what we have in the past. That's what our focus is developing the entirety of the unit. And again, there is to your point, chemistry and cohesion is a very important thing. So hopefully you get to a position from a game control that you can work your guys together through a good majority of the game. Then where you see fit, whether it's a rotating basis or the back half of the game, you get an opportunity to get some of your other guys on the field and gain experience too.
Back here to the middle, James.
Brent, at linebacker, it looks like, you've talked about, you think you're gonna have more depth as you go into your first week. Do you still feel that way? Do you feel like you've got more guys you can play there at the linebacker position?
Yeah, it's a group that's really, they're growing up in the system, and that's ideal. We had several guys that our first year that were freshmen in that 2 deep. Sammy and I say Sammy, Danny rather, is kind of one of the lonesome wolves as far as an older guy in that group. Dolby is semi-included in that group. You know, he's played a lot of ball and he's a senior. Started, I think, four or five games last year for us at that position. But the rest of the crew, you feel like they're veterans now, going into their third year, even though, Kobe and Kip, for example, redshirted their freshman year. But last year they really kind of got dunked in the deep end and baptized, if you will, along with Jaden Jackson. Jaden, of course, played as a true freshman and then played the last couple of years as well. I think Jaren's first game, maybe at Nebraska, that he played extensively, made 10 tackles in that game, didn't know what he was doing, was playing cheetah. But it's been a group that, of course, I'm emotionally attached to that group. I've challenged them from the day I got here to be, the heart and soul, the backbone of this football team in the locker room. And, they've taken, their opportunity and the challenge, they've taken it seriously, led by Danny. Couldn't be more proud of his growth, his maturation, the leadership that he brings, the passion, the investment that he has in his program and his teammates. He's a wonderful teammate. Cares about everybody else's success as much as he does himself. So, then you got, a guy like Lewis Carter and Sammy, who are going in on their second year, who I think have a chance to just be outstanding. Really, as good as there is in college football, along with Desan McCullough, who's, he's day-to-day, but dealing with that injury. But we're long, we're fast, I think we're instinctive. It's a group of guys that are, again, heavily invested. They put in a tremendous amount of time off the field and working on their craft, and they do it together. That's my favorite thing. And when we got here for the first several months, nobody came up to the third floor. And one during our first season, we had one Sunday, I was meeting with a recruit and the family, and I had my door open in my office, and in comes David Awebu and Sean and Sean, and I guess it was Danny, and those guys they all showed up together, and they were in there and watched film together. And man, you want to talk about a coach that was fired up. It's a baby step, but it's a step. And I'm like, that's more what it's a small thing, but it's a big thing. And I want them to come up because we can't make them come up. I want them to come up because they really desire to. They're passionate about it. They're excited to do it, even though it's hard and it's work. But when you're chasing your dreams, willing to go above and beyond. And I've always said you never regret doing more than what's required. And that's a group of guys that have really epitomized that, really, since that first year. So really excited about the depth there, the playmaking, and we're going to play a lot of guys because we've got a lot of good players there. So I'm really excited to watch that group.
Bob Phillip?
Yeah, Brent, you have Billy Bowman listed a kick returner, Peyton Bowen as punt returner. What kind of separated them to where they set themselves apart for that role? And I don't want to say if concern is the right word, but 2 of your 3 top safeties in such a huge role on special teams. Is that a bit of a concern?
Yeah, they're really good players, and they're good with the ball in their hands. They both have a natural knack for it. I think you look around, whether it's the NFL or college football, the best players are out there in playmaking positions, and you can get hurt at any position. Every position you're a target. So and we've gotten hurt. Billy's gotten hurt not returning. He's gotten hurt returning, and Peyton Bowen's gotten hurt. He's pulled a hammy, he's hurt his hand a year ago, not returning. So I think that my responsibility is to put the best guys in a position to make plays, and those are guys that have a real knack for fielding the ball and getting vertical quick. They got good natural instincts for it.
Jesse?
Brent, you touched on that a little bit. I wanted to ask you about that cheetah spot, and specifically Kendall Dove. Just how have you seen him maybe grow since he's got on campus? How have you seen him kind of grow into that role and maybe lead that group as a whole?
Yeah, I love where he's at. You know, Kendall had a small sample size last year, starting I think 4 or 5 games, and plays really big, incredibly disruptive. He's got tremendous man-to-man skills, a really good zone space player. Plays big when he blitzes. He's like 6'2", 225-pound vision of himself. That's what he sees himself as. He got a tremendous bite to him, and likes to play. You know, one of the hardest working guys, you know, in our locker room. But probably, you know, there might be a few other that equal him, but he's one of the most competitive football players, you know, I've been around. I've seen the most growth probably in his becoming a more detailed player, being more specific and intentional, situationally, eyes, alignments, just being better, more accountable, more aware. You know, how his role, how he fits into the rest of the defense. So there's been a maturation mentally and technically that I have a great appreciation for. But he has a chance to have a tremendous year and have played the game a long time. Got to keep his head down, got to keep improving. But I really like where Kendall Dove is. He's had a great last several months.
Tom?
Brent, another guy with a kind of a small sample size, Brennan Thompson, top line at wide receiver there. Just how much have you seen him grow from when he got here last year, and what really stood out about him in fall camp to kind of earn that starting spot?
Well, as you may or may not know, he didn't play much receiver, if at all, in high school. Was an athlete and played a lot of quarterback, and goes to Texas and has a bad hamstring and was in the 2 deep, but didn't really play much at all. I got a little bit of game experience in a couple of games, but so came in here as an inexperienced guy, a track guy. Certainly was a vertical threat, but what I love the most about Brennan Thompson, he's become one of our best leaders, incredibly vocal, really bright young guy that cares about his teammates. He can run the entire route tree. You know, he was focused on not being labeled as just a 9 route or a go ball guy. And so he's done a great job, whether it's the curls, the mesh, the digs across the middle of the field, shows great toughness and durability. You know, had the most yardage of any of our receivers over the course of fall camp. So his willingness to build his body up, and again, a small frame, has competed and played at a really high level and just a physical tough level for a smaller, diminutive guy. And so really, again, proud of his growth as a player, but every bit as much also, again, as one of our vocal leaders on offense. Just plays with tremendous effort all the time.
Okay, and you have Mason?
Brent, you got Branson Hickman here at the top of your depth chart at center. What's it been like watching him get in and get up to speed and get connected with the guys in this short time?
Yeah, he's one of 13 guys on our roster on offense and defense in the kicking game that are making their first time starts this week, and for us here at this stadium. So really excited about Branson. You know, the game's slow for him. Very technically sound. So kind of like Jaden Jackson, because Jaden had this technical and fundamental strength to him. It's allowed him to really transition quickly. You know, and really for both of them, the only real barrier was the language barrier. And again, a bright guy that's put the time in. The staff's done a nice job of helping him. His teammates have done a nice job of helping him, but Branson's a guy that has put the work in to put himself in this position. Again, both fundamentally, which he really excels at, and again, not being overwhelmed by everything that you might see on any given line of scrimmage in college football.
Okay, we'll go second row far right, Cliff Brunt.
Yeah, Coach, I'm looking at your quarterbacks. You got Michael Hawkins at number 2, ahead of Casey Thompson. Hawkins being a freshman, no small feat, having him over a guy with that much experience. What went into that? What did Michael Hawkins show you?
That Mike has shown us a lot of things, but a tremendous playmaker, really focused and locked in, fundamentally sound, He's got a big arm, he's a quick decision maker. He can improvise and keep his eyes down the field. He can beat you with his legs. He can, as I said, can really, there's not a route that he can't excel in. Can throw the ball, over the top and does a nice job of getting it out underneath. And got a lot to learn, at times was outstanding and at times was dreadful, like all young players. He shares, he's in a long line there. But, really felt like, the combination of all of it, getting him ready. We don't have to have a refined package, so to speak, for Mike. And I think that went into it, just like Casey. And Casey in his opportunity, when he got an opportunity to get in, he did a nice job. And I think some of the things that are really fast for Mike are slow for Casey. But the totality of all of it, we just felt like, Mike was, our next best option, for the reasons that I just said. He has, really high level playmaking ability. And a guy that, again, shows up every day putting the work in and is really mature, for his age. Like Casey, Casey's the consummate professional, and he's made those two guys better with his mentorship, and he's just incredibly helpful, for a lot of guys on offense. He's got a different lens, as you would expect, as his, playing as much college football that he has. So he's really helped both Mike and Jackson, mature and get ready for the season.
James, did you have one? Jackson? No, okay. John Hoover?
Yeah, Brent, I'm curious about this freshman class. You mentioned 2 guys on the 2 deep, but when you look at the whole thing extended out, you see 17 names for true freshmen in the 24 class. First, is that a good number for you? Is that a high number? Is that more than you would expect?
I don't know. I think in this day and age, I think that's probably appropriate.
Yeah.
You don't have the stability in your locker room like you once did, but I think that's 6. There's 2 on defense in the 2 deep, and I think 4 on offense in the 2 deep. And I think that's more normal than not. I don't really look to see how many freshman people. I usually look at how many juniors and seniors are in that starting group, or in the 2 deep. We have 31 juniors and seniors with our kicking game and an offense and defense. So we have this unique blend of experience and older guys that have played, a lot of college football with, again, we've got 6 in the 2 deep. Would you say 17 or 18 in the 3 deep?
Yeah.
So that's a lot, but we've recruited at a high level, and most of the guys, I think there's been somewhat of a trend. Not that it's a new thing, but I think, I can't remember, Mike probably doesn't know, but we had, no offense, 20 plus guys that came at mid-year. I think maybe 21? 20. All right, 20 guys. So I knew it before Mike. But we had 20 guys come at mid-year. That's a lot of guys, and I can't remember what it was the year before, but it was very close, maybe just under that. So the focus in high school, more often, you see, we've got Devon Mitchell that reclassed and came out, had another year of high school. And I'm not a big fan of that. And we don't have it as a prerequisite, hey, you gotta be a mid-year to come. I want them to be excited about coming, have a maturity that is going to help them transitionally leaving high school. If they're immature and they're not a focused, driven, young person, they're going to be miserable. Because they're going to have more structure than they've had, probably in their whole life that first semester. And there's nothing easy about it. It's just endless, relentless work, and everything's uncomfortable. And that's when you're doing it the right way. It's that way for them. But anyway, that being said, I'm not surprised, and I'm hopeful that maybe you'll even see a few more, as we move on down the road. you know, sometimes when you have a freshman in there, it doesn't have anything to do with anybody else that isn't doing something. It's really, man, they've really done a great job. Just as some of the things I think we talked about, we talked about Jaden Jackson, you know, and how he got to that position. You know, I've been bragging on Eli Bowen. He might be third on that depth chart, but again, as I've said, you know, it's not premium information, you know, to sell. I mean, really just, I've said that, you know, Eli Bowen's gonna be a really good player. He has been one, but just nothing overwhelms him, you know, from being a young guy, and not the structure, not the demand, the load that's required of him academically, the weight room, the nutrition, competing, you know, it's nonstop, the demands of these guys. So, but it's a really talented group of guys. But you know, a guy like Eddie Pierre-Louis, if he had been here in January, you know, he might be an OR guy, you know, on the top end of that OR. You know, he might have been the first guy on that. I don't know. You know, there's no really way to tell, but you know, what he has been able to show, you know, in a very short amount of time is pretty impressive.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Time for three more. Back row, Curtis.
Yeah, Brent, is David Stone in the mix to get some reps here early on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you know, we, like most teams, we're gonna, you know, that line of scrimmage on defense. Again, we're hopeful to play in that 9 to 12 range, 12 being best case scenario. And again, you get your opportunity. You got to go in there, know what you're doing, and I'm sure he will. But David Stone's absolutely somebody that he led the defensive tackles when we went pass rush, our pass rush drills, good on good. He led. He might have had one or two more than the next guy, so he led in our sacks out of those guys. He's just trying to get refined fundamentally, technically, pad level, things like that. But love where he's at. And, you know, just because he's not a starter doesn't mean it's not an indictment what he's not doing. He just has some things he's got to work on, like most guys. You know, like most guys. Again, Jaden Jackson is abnormal. You know, and like I've said, he just, when he showed up, he had the fundamentals that are really, you know, a lot of guys don't have amazing fundamentals when they come in, and so it takes time to develop those habits, you know, to do that work over and over and over until you can't get it wrong. It becomes a habit and second nature to you. And so, but he's working on that, and expect big things from him in the future.
Okay, last two, Joe Masato and then Colton Sully. Joe.
Yeah, Brent, usually, you know, this time of year here, more questions are about the defensive side. That's where the uncertainty has been, especially before you got here. That sort of flipped this year with more uncertainty and questions about the offense. Just what's your comfort level in the offense as a whole, given new personnel, new staff, and everything?
What's my feeling on the offense?
Correct.
Yeah, excited about what they can become. We're not there yet, but as I said, you know, in my opening statement, you know, my vision is for them to be able to effectively, you know, run the ball downhill, create explosive plays, take care of the football, you know, put pressure on a defense in both our schemes and our ability to tempo when we want. Getting the ball in our playmakers' hands. I think we've got fantastic playmakers at all of our skill positions, tight end, running backs, receiver. I really like the leadership and the buy-in with our guys on the offensive line. It's a fun group. If Bill Beadenbow, that you know, most of the time when he comes into the football building, it's the no fun zone for Bill. And but I bet you he would say, if you gave him true serum, and I bet you he would say this has kind of been a fun group for him to coach. They've been mature, they've been focused, they care for one another, they bust their butt, they show up and they work every day. It's not pulling teeth. You don't have the group as a whole, you don't have distractions off the field. It's a very driven group of guys, no off the field issues whatsoever. And that can be draining, or what can be draining as a coach is that the coach wants your success more than you want it for yourself. And you can't say that about this group of guys. And you know, we got a group of guys that love it. And so when you have that, you know, not only is it fun to be around, that doesn't win for you. Fun to be around, that doesn't win for you. But when you got guys that love it, you know, that is what wins for you. That's part of the recipe. When you have that, it's a great, you know, part of the recipe. So it's a group of guys too that has, again, a blend of experience. Again, we haven't had a season together. And so hopefully what you see from game 1 to game 12 is, you know, tremendous improvement, tremendous cohesion. And but I do feel like this is the closest that the whole offense has been since we've been here. And I think you have a lot of guys, the new guys that we've brought in, combined with the guys that are returning. I think you have a relational group of people. Not everybody's relational. You know, that's a real thing. And I think our staff has done a good job also of nurturing, you know, that part. And that's not the part that people really want to hear a whole lot about, or really a lot of people that haven't been in a really successful environment, they don't necessarily understand. But that's, to me, a foundational piece of something that you could build, something for longevity, build something that lasts, and build something that's really successful. I do think that is a prereq.
Okay, last one, Colton.
Brent, you have Bauer and Jake as four as a tight end and Bauer as a captain this week. What has stood out from that room?
They love to compete. They're skilled. They know how to play tight end. They like blocking. They know how to get open. And the ball's thrown to them, they catch it. They love to compete. They love their teammates. You know, those two guys have brought a spirit, you know, to that, really to the whole offense. You know, other guys are part of that too. But those are guys that they just love it. They love to practice. They show up in the building. They've got a really positive attitude that is infectious and contagious. And the coaches, really, again, in any environment, if you work in an office building or you work in a locker room, nobody wants to deal with people that are funky. You know, you got a funk to them when they show up, and just it drains you. And we don't have that. And those guys are the opposite of funky, and they like all of it. And they're not when the day's over, they're not grabbing their stuff and running out of the building as fast as they can. And really, you have a locker room that's like that. And that's been, those guys are an example of that. But they've made that group a lot better. You know, they've made Cade McIntyre better. They've made Caden Helms better. Those were young guys that, you know, hadn't been necessarily exposed. That Braden Willis was a lot like that. Austin was awesome last year, but he was really everything's different. That whole group is transformed, and those two guys they have a deep, genuine appreciation for their coaches, for the resources, for their teammates, for their opportunity, to be able to wear, you know, an Oklahoma jersey. They're like, man, I can't believe it. It's like a dream to them. And so that's refreshing. You know, that's a really refreshing thing.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Brent, thanks.
Nobody else?
I got one.
What do you got?
Tell us all you know about Temple.
Yeah, good. I wondered. We are playing Temple. Coach Drayton going into their third year, and they had a lot of transfers, and so they returned some really good players up front on defense. 34 has been a really good player that is a Power 5 type of guy, in my opinion. They brought in 7 or 8 transfers in their back end. You know, they're supposed to, again, they come from everywhere too. Guys that were starters at other schools, expect an improved version of their back 7 and longer, and supposed to have more speed and playmaking ability there. They'll be aggressive in what they do, and then, you know, on offense, their last several games, last 3 games in particular, 4 games, they really, and again, they had different moments, but they really started playing well the back half of the season. Even though they lost 3 in a row, they actually performed well statistically speaking, and points where they started getting into a rhythm. They said they got a quarterback battle. One's a little bit more of a pocket guy, one's more of an athletic guy, one's a junior college guy, one transferred from Rutgers. And they both have had their different moments of success. And they use a lot of two tight ends, and like a lot of people, and then they give you multiple sets out of the 12 personnel. Really like their running backs. They can get vertical quickly and got game-breaking speed, and they have some excellent wideouts too that can take the top off the defense, and their ability to, they want to be able to run the ball and screen it and boot it and take shots and those types of things. Utilize some tempo, but also they'll do, times where they'll huddle up, things of that nature, and then, they're going to be really aggressive in their kicking game. Coaches come, their background where they block a lot of kicks and take some chances, and so I like that. So that'll be a challenge for us in that regard.
It's kind of cool to be playing on a Friday night. What are some of
Yeah,
your
first
best?
time ever in our stadium history.
Yeah. What are some of your best memories from playing on Friday nights yourself back at Salina South?
Well, it's not going to be anything the same. But we had a big crosstown rival. That's probably what I remember the most in high school, is playing Central, our hated rival. They were that version of Crimson right there, yeah, and the Mustangs. But again, today's Tuesday, just in case you guys didn't look at the calendar, and so the date you referred to, Friday, is actually Saturday. So quit screwing us up. We're in a really good frame of mind right now. And when you all were going to church yesterday, we were sweating it out, getting after it on Monday. So, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I'm glad that several teams changed their schedules so that Sooner fans can be here and we're not disrupting as much. I think this is an aberration. I don't think this is a philosophy of Oklahoma now, but I'd always be for playing in those kickoff type games. I think that there's benefits to that. One, you can get on a different type of stage to kick off the season and showcase your program. I think that's a great thing. I think it gives maybe a different level of excitement and focus for your players, and then you get the benefit of potentially, if you have it scheduled right, maybe a day or two extra in preparation for the next game as well. And we don't have to be a bunch of robots. We get to watch some college football, that following day as well.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I saw that you chose 4 of your players as captains for this team. How did their personalities and how did their skill sets go into you choosing them as captains?
Yeah, well, again, we believe in, a body of work to determine the most stressful time of the year is the season, and the most committed time of the year is during the course of the season, the requirement. So we name permanent captains at the end of the year, for our championship phase of the program, our bowl game, and whether captains leading the group, every day for a month or so, and where the players vote on those guys through a body of work through the season who has displayed it. It's easy to be, a captain for a couple of weeks, but do you display the qualities that a captain would over the course of, a season? And so those guys have led the way. Probably no surprise with, with Billy and Danny, with the depth of experience in the locker room. And then again, Jackson, again, he's that quarterback at Oklahoma is the face. He's put the work in. It's been his level of consistency and his growth and maturation. He's worked hard at helping everybody else around him get better, and he's got a broad set of shoulders to carry a heavy load. And then Bauer Sharp, I just said all the reasons, that I answered that question, about him and Jake. It's just been phenomenal. He's just a natural leader, and has just done an amazing job. But those guys, again, week to week, it keeps things fresh, and it helps me develop, our coaches as well, develop the depth of the leadership. Your alphas will always be your alphas, because alphas do what alphas do. Winners do what winners do. They're going to always lead. But my job is to create an environment where we can develop the depth of the leadership, the next group of guys that are also worthy, although they may not show up in the stat sheet and nobody writes about them. This is their opportunity to lead in their way and to be ready for that next phase and understand the burden that comes, the responsibility that comes along with that.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Thanks,
Everybody have a
Brent.
good one.